I'm excited. I love a good yarn. Can't wait.
Well, you're in the right place for a good yarn today.
Good day.
So, thanks for coming down. We love having guests in our little humble studio here in Kingscliff, and so it's good to see you. We appreciate that. We're in gratitude of that, and we know that gratitude is one of the greatest gifts that we can share with everyone in life over all types of things. So thank you. But let's start with, where did it all begin for you? What would you like to share with us about your life as a young girl growing up?
Ooh, imagination. I had such a vivid imagination, but I was always outside too. You couldn't keep me inside. I was a little feral. I was outside all day long, just coming up with just such stories in my mind. Like, my mum had no idea what I was going to be because I was everything all at once when I was young. I remember being a ranger, just taking my family around the yard and showing them different things that I kind of, made up. And then I was like, I imagined myself as like a bit older, like studying and going to university and like having a family. Like, I just remember role playing by myself quite a lot. Like, I had two siblings. I had an elder sister and an elder brother. My brother and me were really close and used to play around a lot, but I did quite enjoy my own time and my alone time and my own mind, and I still do to this day. So yeah, I had a great childhood. Mum and Dad kind of separated when I was in grade 6, and then it was just kind of Mum picking up the pace for all 3 kids, which she was a legend at. But I couldn't complain. I mean, we went camping, we were outdoors, we didn't kind of miss anything growing up.
Well, it's interesting that I remember as a child when I was growing up, or some parts of it, like I'm 61 now, there's not a lot I can remember, but I can remember some parts. They come back to me at times, but same thing, we were out and about all the time. We were out on our bikes, we were at the beach, we were surfing, we were playing soccer, we were climbing mulberry trees. Mm-hmm. We were going off into the bush doing bushwalks and walks that didn't even exist. We were just out having fun.
Oh, yeah.
And as long as we were home before dark, everything was okay. If we got home after dark, everything wasn't okay.
100%, yeah.
But that's how we rolled with it,
Yeah.
and we knew no different.
Yeah.
And for us, our staple diet of peanut butter sandwich on white bread, or sometimes it was a treat, it was peanut butter and jam combined.
Yeah.
We grew up on Vegemite and Weet-Bix and a glass of I remember the days at school where we had milk bottle deliveries where we got little bottles of chocolate milk. That was our treat in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
It was like, hallelujah. Didn't get chocolate milk at home very often, but we knew we got it at school.
Yeah.
So when you can have those types of childhood memories, they're really fond memories to call on and be able to sit here and have a little bit of a laugh about. So what did your parents stand for?
I mean, as I said, Dad was kind of out of the picture pretty early on, but Mum, she was just allowed. She just let us do kind of not what we wanted to do. She was very strict in that fact. Like, I wasn't allowed to go out partying or anything like that when I was young, but she was kind of my biggest supporter, I guess, with anything that I wanted to do. So I had a love of sport and athletics back then, and she was the one who would be driving me to, athletics, sitting there for 2 hours, driving me to different events, and she did that right up until, I was in my early 20s, and she's just such a supporter. Never, I guess, pushed me into anything. I wasn't very good at school. I just was not an academic that I thought. So she never got angry or never put pressure on the report cards or anything. She goes, you'll figure it out. You'll find out one day what you want to be, and it'll come to you when it's meant to come to you. So I really appreciate her for that, because it did. And I found my way later on in life, and not, as a school kid, because I actually didn't like school very much at all.
Yeah, I was not real good at school either. I attended school, but I can't say that I was real good at school.
Physically, not mentally. Somewhere else mentally, but your body was there.
Yeah, I was there. There weren't too many absence days on the report card, but it didn't improve the B's and the C's and the D's.
The C's and the D's for me, no.
I actually left in year 9.
Yeah.
Not by choice, because I got punched in the nose with a fight that I picked. through peer pressure from my mates. They said, go on, knock his head off. And, so he knocked my head off, and I ended up in hospital having an operation on my nose that was looking sideways. So I bailed out in year 9, and Mum and Dad had a great cure for that. They put me on a bus and sent me to Sydney to do a panel beating apprenticeship with my uncle.
That's even better. That's perfect.
So I went from surfing on the Gold Coast beaches to living out in the western suburbs of Sydney, going,
whoa.
Why did I pick that fight?
Yeah.
That's really interesting feedback from hearing about your mother's way of just allowing you to be.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful part in life, and it's something that I try to teach and encourage and coach people on who we're being as a human being, and allowing people to find their place and find their way. And if we go back in a little bit of reflection, it probably could have been really easy for her to just put up some barriers and boundaries and hold you back.
Yeah. Absolutely. And she was probably more hard. I was the third child, so she was just done with me. But no, she was a little bit more hard on my sister, I would say, for sure, because she was the first child. But I also think she, maybe, I don't know, just realised that I was very different to my sister, and I was very different to my brother in the fact that I did have a little bit more of just an understanding differently about the world around me. Like, I wasn't into partying. I wasn't into having a lot of friends or, being around a lot of people. I was very much I used to write a lot back then, write poems when I remember I was 10 to 13 writing these books and poems and things like that. It was insane. And I just think she knew energetically, I'll be right. She'll be right, that one.
Yeah. She saw the creative spirit in you and knew that through that creative spirit that you were going to be able to generate and create regardless. So
I think so. Yeah.
Give her that freedom.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're a bit of an introvert, which is
I'm
an introverted extrovert, meaning that I love to be alone, but when I'm with people or I'm presenting or I'm in recording a podcast, that's a bit of my extroversion will come out.
Yeah.
But I can own that shit because that's me.
Yeah.
Like I just got back from 2 days of being out on a campground with no one around me but me.
Yeah.
And I just had 48 hours to do some work we've got a new workshop coming up later this month. So I just wanted a little bit of clear headspace to just focus in on that and allow the content of that to come through me. I'm a bit of a feeling type where I just won't sit down there and try to make something happen. I have to allow it to flow through me. So I found that space where it started to flow through me. So that was great. And also it gave me a little bit of an opportunity to have a little bit of a break from little Ari, because we've got a 2.5-year-old son at home and he's a lot of energy. And, so sometimes Daddy needs just a little bit of breathing space. So.
Yeah.
And my partner, Melissa, she encourages me, look, when are you going away again? You need a couple of days on your own. You need a bit of space.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I didn't have to go far.
Yeah.
So that time alone is, it sounds like for you that was just something that you were quite at peace with.
Quite at peace. Very early on, I liked my own company.
Yeah.
And definitely an introvert. Definitely have to, exactly what you said, I have to come back to quietness, alone time to sort of rejuvenate myself so that I can have enough energy to go out into the world. I'm very much an energetic kind of worker as well. So when I am extrovert and I'm on stages and I'm helping people, I push so much energy into those people to sort of light them up. So I need the opposite to that to light myself up so that I can keep giving. Because if I don't, then I'm going to just drain.
Yeah. I find the same thing when I put people through somatic breathwork journeys. If I don't recharge myself from that, it can be so transformational for the participants, but I can take that energy on board. So I've had to learn some skills and techniques to shield myself from that, to enable myself to be able to keep delivering it.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm curious. So you said you, at some stages, you didn't know what you wanted to be when you were growing up. It was sort of like, I'm going to be this one day and that the next. So what led you down the field of becoming a paramedic?
Yeah, I was always involved in health. Like from a little kid, I was always that active one, running around, I think in primary school I naturally went to athletics and netball and just sporty things. And then, so I went into personal training first. So as soon as I left school, I kind of just thought, well, what I love to exercise, so I can make a career out of exercising other people. So I studied to be a personal trainer. To me, it wasn't fulfilling enough because I find a little bit of the fitness industry quite icky, like energetically icky. I don't know. I definitely was never going to work in a gym because it's not my scene. Right. So it's such an interesting story because how I became a paramedic, because it was the universe kind of pushing me into it rather than me knowing what I wanted to do as a paramedic. So I'll kind of tell you the story. I remember it was like 2 days out from like picking your university, like to get into uni, to put your, I think it was called the QTAC form back then or something. And I kind of leave things to the last minute. So I was like, I still don't know what I want to do. Like, I know I want to study more because I don't want to be a personal trainer forever. So I want to help people more. So I was thinking down the line of physio and osteopath because that's what most kind of personal trainers go into. But it never gave me those butterflies in the stomach. But I was just like, I don't know what else to do. So I sat down at my desk and dialed up my computer and got the form, and I pressed Bachelor of Health Science physiotherapy. Like, I was going to put that number 1. You're meant to have 3 choices. So I put that number 1. I put osteopath number 2, and I did not have a third choice. I was just like, I do not know, so I'm just going to leave it and I actually didn't have the score to even get into physio. I just was not smart enough, Well, I'll take that back. Yeah. I didn't have the numbers, I guess, that, the society says you have to have this number to get into that. I didn't have that. So I was I was winging it, basically, and hoping for the best. And I sat back and I kind of was like, yeah, okay, well, we'll just see what happens. If I get into physio, I'm meant to get into physio. If I don't, whatever. And then I remember just looking back over the form before I pressed send, and I read the first, and I'm like, Bachelor of Health Science Paramedics. And I'm like, what? I didn't write that. I didn't press that in there. Like, there was a thing like number 1. I didn't press that in there. And I was like, I sat back in my chair and went, paramedics? Wow. It didn't even cross my mind before that moment that even existed in my head. And I just was like, paramedic? A paramedic? Wow, that'd be cool. And I went, could I be a paramedic? And I'm not joking you. As I said those words, I heard a siren go past, and we lived on a main road, and I looked out the window and I saw an ambulance with lights and sirens flying by, and I went, oh hell yeah. I can be a paramedic. And I got that instant like butterflies, juicy butterflies in the stomach, and I went, I'm leaving that as number 1, then I'll put physio as number 2 and osteo as number 3. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get in there. I don't know what the score is or anything. So I remember kind of looking up at the, what it involved and stuff. And it was the very first intake of students into university, because it's usually an internal job through the Queensland Ambulance when I did it. Okay, yeah. But they just switched over to like the first, intake. So it was kind of an open call. I was like, well, I'm going to get this. I just knew it. And then a few, weeks later when it came out, yep, I got it. So I started off my paramedic journey, studying. And
how long did that, just the normal paramedic, because I know you went on to become an advanced care paramedic, but how long were you just in that first stage of paramedics?
Yeah, so that's what it is. When you qualify, you are an advanced care paramedic, and then you have the option to go to an intensive care paramedic. So I stayed at the advanced care paramedic. So I think the study was about 3 years, and then, straight into work. I mean, I started working after about a year of study. They made you go into the field because you can't learn stuff off a book, especially in that job. So we started doing sort of road work, about a year into it, and I never looked back. I absolutely loved it and did it for 10 years. But, then that 10-year period came and I was like, things shifted and changed. Yeah.
Yeah, what was driving you at that time of your life? Like, how old were you then?
When I first started?
Yeah.
I was 23. When I first started, to be a paramedic. And I was very motivated, very motivated. That's probably coming from, I was an athlete before that. I was a 100-meter hurdler. And as I said, I was never interested in the parties or, the schoolies or anything like that. I would just train.
Just out of focus.
I was very focused, would train. If I want something, I will go 100% to get it. And that's me. That's been me my whole life. So when I heard that siren, I was like, I know I can't study so well. I know I'm not very good on the books, but I'm going to make this happen. Yeah.
And you did. Well done.
I did.
It's interesting when you were saying you were filling out that form and as if you swore that you didn't make that first choice. And I've had events like that happen to me, and even just one recently when I've gone back and looked at something and I thought, I'm sure I didn't select that box.
Yeah.
But what's happening around me, and it's sort of like these synchronistic universal events that are just like, hang on a minute, there's a little bit of a deviation here, and that's showing up for, you don't know exactly why yet, but it's there in front of you.
Pushing you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Giving you a nudge.
Yeah. Can you share any experiences from your paramedic career that highlights the importance of collaboration and communication in high-stress situations?
One of the things I loved about the paramedics is the ability to be able to kind of talk to anyone and assess any situation. I found I'm a very intuitive person anyway. I was before I was a paramedic, but that job really opened that up for me because you would have to open the door to a situation you didn't understand and kind of assess the dangers and assess things you couldn't see physically. Like you could see someone sitting on the lounge and they may not look well, but you had to feel into the energy around it as well. And you really had to go off your gut feeling, being like, something feels off here. Like it feels dangerous here. There's something not right, And if you didn't do that, you get yourself in trouble. So that really helped to open up my kind of intuitive awareness through danger and through, because there was many jobs in that where I just went, no, I'm not going in, or no, there's something off here. I think it also enables you to talk to anyone. Like you have to talk to a street kid on the side of the road and royalty in the next job. So you become a people person in the fact that you can assess someone's energy behind them, but also how to make them feel comfortable in that moment to make them trust you in that moment as well. And that has to be done in a split second.
Yeah.
So I loved that part of the job. That was like, yes.
And that trust is a big word, isn't it? The building that trust. And also what you shared with us about the gut feeling, because the gut, as we know, has its own nervous system. So it's your nervous system that's triggering the gut feeling and that's driving the intuition. And then it's, as we know, if we've ever gone against our gut feeling, 99% of the times it'll come back and kick you up the backside.
Yeah.
So really stepping into that gut feeling to go, no, there's an awareness, I'm not sure what it is here. So just knowing that for you, and especially in some of those situations, which I would imagine would have been really quite life-threatening, to be able to just read that energy and feeling without just that rush of blood to just step straight into it.
Yeah. And your intuition, I don't know if you know, but your intuition is like the first 3 seconds, and then your rational mind starts pumping in. So I don't know if you've ever about to walk out of your house and you're like, oh, I should just grab that something, grab that piece of paper that I was going to give that person. And then you're like, oh, no, she's not at work today. I don't need to do it today. Then you go to work and then they're there. And you're like, oh, I was going to get you something. Yeah. It's that first 3 seconds. So if you actually learn to listen to that first 3 seconds before your mind goes, no, I won't need that today.
Yeah.
Things change.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I'm very much on that. Like my second book that came to me as a download from the universe. I talk to people about this and they look at me as if I am an alien from out of the universe.
I love it.
Because I've just shared it in that way. They sort of like, it's, when you see some of the dogs and you're talking to them and the dog turns its head at 45 and then it turns back the other way, they're looking at you like
Yeah.
that way.
Oh, he's
She's
one of
saying, I got to
those.
download from the universe to write this book. You got to what? From where?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
And I really don't care what anyone thinks.
Yeah.
I just go, that's what happened.
That's what happened. I've had many of those too.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And then, boom, then 2 years later, you got a book sitting on the desk.
Yep.
So, yeah, intuition and gut feel, big part of my life. There's actually one of the books on my desk here called Decisive Intuition, written by a friend of mine, Rick Snyder, in the United States. And I've had Rick out here doing some workshopping and stuff with me. And he had that intuition and that gut feel that he had a calling to go and write that book. So he took himself off to Spain, a country that he knew little about, but he had a calling that said, go to Spain and write your book. So he went to Spain and had 18 months and went and wrote his book, learned a new culture, new language, and created a whole new world of friends, and went and wrote his book, all from that gut feel and that intuition.
Listening in.
So very good. Thanks for that. And they say for a person to make a massive transformational shift from who they are, that it usually takes a major event or an accident, an injury, or a certain situation to trigger the realization that their current reality is no longer serving them. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have you ever experienced this?
Yeah, so it was coming towards the end of, my paramedic career. I'd been in there for 10 years. I'd become a very shell of a human. Like, obviously, as a paramedic, you have to put walls up, serious walls up, in order for the work not to affect you sort of mentally, physically and emotionally. I didn't realise I was doing that. Like, I didn't actually realise I was becoming very unempathetic as a human being, but I was. Things did not bother me. Things did not touch me emotionally. I was just could see and do anything in that job and just be like, meh. And mentally, it never really affected me that way because I had big walls up. So towards the end, I loved the job, but I hated the politics behind that job. And I was such a positive person. Like, behind it all, I just wanted to help people. But that job is very negative. Like, you're not going to positive things. You're not going to see people at their happiest. You're going to see people at their worst. So that, your energy, your vibe attracts your tribe kind of thing. So you were constantly in a negative situation. You'd get to work, I'd be in a happy mood. My partner, paramedic, would be in a crappy, unhappy mood. And then it'd be like, oh. And then you go to these jobs that are just also emotionally draining and negative, and then you go to the hospitals and the nurses are angry and grumpy, and I'm just like, my gosh, this is so draining. Like, no amount of positivity that I bring to this job is going to make a difference because this is a negative environment. And then, as I said, I love the job, the actual physical work, but it did come down to just going, I'm not happy. Like, I'm really not happy doing this work, anymore, because it's, one, not fulfilling because it's just sad and negative, and I can't make a difference here. Like, yes, I'm helping lives, I'm saving lives, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing much else than that. So it came to the 10th year, and I was just, my husband actually goes, you're just not the same person as I met. You're just kind of, I don't know, blank, dark. And I was like, that's not me. That's just not who I am. Then I had my son, and he was actually the one that brought me crashing to my knees. He had severe eczema, like from head to toe. And for someone who's been in the health industry for many, many years, I looked at him and I could not fix him. Like, I could not help him. And we went to all the medical things you could possibly think of to try and help him, and none of them worked. And that's when I completely turned my back on the entire medical system, basically. Like, don't get me wrong, I still like certain things in it, but we ended up going down the holistic line of sort of helping him. And both me and my husband fell into a deep kind of, I would call it depression, because we were at our despair. I didn't like the character I was at that moment. I was angry and sad and frustrated and working part-time as a paramedic, which is also all those things as well. And I just remember saying, I just can't do this. I can't do both of these things. In fact, I just can't do anything. Any of it. And I decided I rocked up to work one morning, and I remember being pulled into the office, and they were saying, your actions have caused this person to become this, this, and this, and sicker and whatnot. And I was like, I'm done. I'm so sick of this. Like, I'm so sick of having the blame put on the paramedic for a company sort of thing. So I just walked out. I just went, I'm done. And I actually walked out in that moment, and that was it. I quit. And then I thought, I've got to focus on my son and getting him better anyway, because he was not well, which was very hard. And we went to everyone you can possibly imagine, you know, Reiki, you know, kinesiology, the leading health and allergists in Australia, everyone. Nothing worked. We eventually found an amazing doctor in Beachmont he was from Germany, and he was both holistic and a normal GP. And he turned to me after treating Clay for about 6 months, and nothing was working. Like, nothing was fixing his eczema, Clay. And he's like, I've never had this happen to me before. Like, usually I fix every child. And I remember him turning to me and goes, Clay's not the problem. You're the problem. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He goes, we have to work on fixing you and your energy and getting you right, and then Clay will get better. And I was like, oh, yeah. Pulled my eyes out.
A big hit.
Yeah. And I remember taking that home, and I booked Clay into like a family daycare just to give me some time away with my own self, because I used to love myself. I used to love spending time with myself, and I hadn't done it for however many years. And I remember walking out to Kugel Cascades on the Gold Coast by myself. Never been out there, you know. Walked out into the rainforest, walked deep into the rainforest one day, and just went, oh, just I could breathe again. And I'm like, I need to just strip off and go onto that water. Something was telling me just to take everything off and go onto the water. There was obviously no one around, and I was very deep into the rainforest. But I just stripped off, and I went for a swim in the freezing cold water. And I was like, it was, I know it sounds weird, but it was like a rebirth. Something happened in that moment, and I started connecting back into myself. And then when I started connecting back into myself and feeling better about myself and feeling energetically well again and healthy, Clay, my son, started getting better, and his eczema literally started disappearing before my eyes. It was fascinating.
Yeah. It's interesting that when you were finding that darker place as a paramedic, and you were putting the walls up, and sometimes when that happens, we can't see ourselves putting the walls up. We know that, but people around us can see it's just getting higher and higher and higher. And they'll try to communicate with you, but there's no breakthrough there, because you're not in a space where you want to be broken through. You're in a space where you just want to be closed off.
Yeah.
So you became almost robotic in your work, and that then was translating to your home life.
Yep.
And then when you had Clay, that energy and frequency at which you were vibrating was not allowing his energy and his own energy and frequency to evolve.
Yep.
So it's really interesting how you put that, because on a recent episode we interviewed Scott Robinson, who's known as the Brain Guy.
Yeah, love him.
And if you listen to that podcast, we talk about something happening in a family member's life that affects another family member thousands of miles away. And it's this transformational universal shift in energy and frequency that unconsciously is affecting someone else somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I can get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
And I've had a recent medical experience where I was diagnosed with a 4.5 centimetre nodule on my thyroid. Mm-hmm. My sister had thyroid cancer. She'd had that taken out. And everyone, including my doctor, said, you've got to get a biopsy, and we've got to do this, and we've got to do that. And I went, thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you, but
no, thank you.
I'm going down my path at the moment. And I needed to find the underlying cause.
100%.
I didn't just want to treat the effect and the symptom. I just wanted to find the underlying cause. I was on my own mission then to heal myself. And so I went off on a bit of a sabbatical, and I ended up in this little town, and I went and did cold water therapy. Went out to the back of these mountain ranges, middle of winter. Water is zippo, just nothing.
Awesome.
I took Rick with me, my nephew, sound engineer and technical director, and now he's got about 3% body fat on him, and I've got about 15% body fat on me, probably more, so that I could carry that cold water a little bit better than what he could. So here's this guy that looks like he's just trim, taut, terrific, takes his shirt off, six-pack, shoulders trimmed out, ready to go. He jumps in the water and he's shaking that much, the camera's nearly fallen out of his hands. I just sat in there like a did about 8 minutes and had a little swim and got out. But back to my story, I then went into this bookstore in town and walking around, and then boom, right in front of me, there's a book. Ayurvedic healing of thyroid conditions such as this, this, and this. Grabbed that book, took it back to where we were staying, my motorhome. I read it from front to cover, from cover to cover. Highlighted some things about it. Oh, that's interesting. Came back, went and got a hair sample analysis, went to a naturopath, got the results of that, found out where all of my heavy metals and stuff were, and different things. My adrenals were just about stuffed. I was basically running on empty. I changed quite a few things in my diet, put myself on ashwagandha, lion's mane. I'm not on any pharmaceutical whatsoever. Refocus some of my meditations into my healing, my breath work that I do as well. And over that last 3 months period, I can feel it now is probably down to about maybe a centimetre. And that just came through me and the belief of me, you can heal your life. It's like Louise Hayes says, you can heal your life. And there is a place in our world for
100%.
Conventional, medicine and hospitals. Like my daughter's a speech pathologist at a fairly high level, and she does some amazing work. And she finds it a little bit difficult if Dad doesn't sort of want to go down that road. So, and I can understand that from her perspective, but I've got to step into what I'm feeling and what I've learned and how I've evolved in myself to know, no, I need to know the cause. And it also came back to your throat chakra, and what is your throat chakra about? And it was using your voice. And I wasn't using my voice effectively. And so there's, and it all comes down to beliefs as well. And we'll have people listening to this scratching their head going, what the, is this happening? Well, yeah, it is happening. And it's the beliefs that I have that, and I'm real conscious of it. The things that I cut out of my diet that were had an effect on my lymphatic system. Well, obviously it's working because I feel I'm healing. My energy levels are way up. I'm much clearer in my voice. I'm resetting new boundaries. So what you're saying there with what was happening with Clay and you needing to go and have that release, you needed to get that out of your body, out of your nervous system, and possibly just that cold water experience was enough to just...
It was almost like 10 years of just built up heat inside my body that I wasn't getting rid of. He showed me it externally on his body, and just being very energetically matched from mother and son. And it was, fascinating that nothing we did physically worked on him other than me working on myself. You couldn't, some people just be like, how is that possible? But it is. Because of the energy and the frequency that sit around human beings and the interconnectedness.
And changing your beliefs in a lot of this stuff
being
as
open.
well, being open to it. I followed Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I love the stuff that he does. It's just quite fascinating. But he's getting results, and he's getting scientifically proven results now.
Yeah.
And I think that there are parts of the normal medical practices that are now starting to bend a little bit and work in with a little bit more holistic.
Yeah.
Governments won't like it and pharmaceuticals won't like it because that's how they fund each other.
Yeah.
But there are people that are just going, no, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
And there are some doctors that are going, no, we really should be trying this from a different perspective.
And I was lucky that I've been through both. Like, as a paramedic, I saw that whole medical field, and I do believe in a lot of it. Like, when you're mangled up on the side of the road, the first thing you want to do is go to hospital and get treated by the best, right? But there is also definitely a space open for the other end of things too, for your own identity and looking deeper into yourself and looking into your own holistic practices and your own self-care.
Yeah.
And not relying on someone else to, I always say your health is your ownership. It's no one else's. And that's how I sort of teach through both sides of the spectrum, and definitely more through the holistic too. But yeah.
Yeah, it's thank you for that, because just that openness of acknowledging that was the transformative, that was a transformative point right there. Mm-hmm. And for that doctor to be able to actually have that epiphany to go, I've got it now. I know what it is.
Yeah.
Because he'd been feeling your energy and every time you'd been there and how locked up you were.
Yeah.
So to be able to recognise that is just huge in itself. Yeah. And that's a great story for lots of people to hear, that there's hope.
Yeah. And I think, too, it was an identity thing, too. Like, as I said, I didn't realise I was putting up the walls, but when I actually finished that job and stopped that job, I just sat there and went, well, who am I now? Like, I was an athlete, and now I'm not. I was a paramedic, and now I'm not. Who am I? And I think we put so much emphasis on identifying ourselves as what we do rather than who we actually are. Yeah. Like, I'm not a paramedic that saves lives. I'm a person that wants to help people as much as I possibly can. Like, that's my identity. It's not what I put on my shoulders or, put a hat on or something like that tells me I am something. So I had to really learn that too when I finished paramedics and just go, what am I going to do now? Because I don't really know who I actually am. So that's where a lot of that sort of healing came into.
And so you were noticing that about yourself and then trying to just sort of rediscover yourself. So what did happen from that point on?
So 2016 is when I finished paramedics, and I think that was just my awakening after that swim. And I remember I was lucky enough, we lived on Balinga Beach on the Gold Coast, and I got to walk out on my balcony and watch the sunrise every morning. So I started making time for myself. I started to listen to me. And because I didn't do that for so long as a paramedic, I just worked 12-hour shifts and then, trained and dulled everything else down. So every morning I just set a goal to get up and watch the sun come up off the ocean and have a piece of paper in front of me and write whatever came down. And from sort of 2016 through to 2018, it was a big transformative, transformation. I remember that first whole year, so 2017, I was sick, like really unwell, and not mentally, but physically. That's how I processed that job and Clay's eczema and things like that. I had every itis you could possibly imagine. I was adrenally fatigued. I was tired. I just remember getting him up, taking him to kindy, going back home and going to sleep. Like, I was so tired. But I did the work in that time. I sat there with myself and I sat with my uncomfortable emotions, and I even got a job on a farm, I remember, because I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to be around too many energies because I'd done that for so many years. So I worked just in the dirt, planting things and picking bananas.
Grounding.
And it was grounding, I know. And it was so good. It healed me just being out in Mother Nature again, like under the sun, in the fresh air, in the dirt. And my own thoughts, because there was no one around to talk to. It was just me and the kale. So here I am having big, deep conversations with the kale bush. And lo and behold, those trees talk back to you. I know I sound freakish like that, but they do. But yeah,
the kale grew, and so did you.
Yeah, 100%. Then I ate the kale. But it just I allowed myself space, because if we don't have space inside of ourselves and inside of our cells and selves, we don't have space outside of ourselves to grow. So I allowed space. Literally on the outside of my body, I allowed space. I didn't want to see four walls. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want any other energies coming into my field. And allowing that space enabled my cells to feel spacious inside and get more clarity and more openness and more bringing my consciousness back into myself too. And having that clarity enables you to then understand where you want to go from there. Like it's like the rain lifts and you can see the road now in front of you. Yeah.
One of the stories in my book, which is, we were talking about the photos, the pictures, the illustrations up on our studio wall here, and there's one story there based on an illustration around anxiety, and that talks about how I would recognise when I felt anxiety coming on, and how I'm able now to self-treat. And that's what that bike ride is. That was one of my therapies of treating my anxiety that I was feeling coming on at that point. Yep. Get on your bike, ride. And as you're riding, you're out in nature, you don't know where you're going, but you know you're going in the right place.
Yep.
And then by the time you get to wherever it is that you were going to,
yep,
you've got a bit more clarity coming back into you, and
yep,
you've been able to treat the feelings that were coming up with when you were feeling that anxiousness building.
Yeah.
To then be able to go, thank you, and come back.
Yeah.
So it's the recognition, the self-recognition, and then acknowledging the tools that you need to move you through it, because we're all in changing states all the time. You know, there's amazing things that happen today, and there's going to be not so amazing things that happen today, and it's going to be the same tomorrow. And some days will roll on for 3 days, and then it'll turn to custard for 3 days.
Yep.
But it's changing states.
It's
and
the tools you have in your belt to be able to help you through all of those different
move
processes
through those states,
too.
Yeah. And how did you end up transitioning then into becoming a health coach and a functional neurology expert? Yeah,
so I have always sort of helped people grow. Like that's always from even as a little kid, but I've always wanted to help people thrive in their own homes and bones, basically, in this thing we live in. And I found the fitness industry didn't give me that sort of feeling of thriving. For many people, they were scared of that whole kind of movement, exercise. And to me, there was a missing link in the fitness industry. And I remember sitting down one day and just going, where does everything come from? Like, where does strength come from? Where does health come from? Where does cell perfusion come from? Everything is run by the master switch, which is our brain. And I was like, I need to understand more about the brain because I don't know enough. I know how the body functions very well, but I want to learn where it all starts from. And I'm very much a questioner. Like I have to question things. I have to understand what's going on. I can't just take things off, I read something, that must be it. I've got to be like, no, let me delve deeper into this.
Yeah.
So once again, I didn't want to go back to uni because that wasn't my thing. So I ended up finding a team in the States who just solely worked on functional neurology, which is sort of performance-based movement, using the body to switch on parts of your brain to, activate certain areas of the brain to get optimization of your physical health and well-being. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I might just do a course with them and see how I go. And then when I did the first course, I was like, oh, there's those juicy butterflies again. Yeah. This is the missing link I've been after. And it just, I loved it from the get-go. And I think I was lucky because I'd had such a vast background before that. So I could put what I learnt there in functional neurology with all of my work as a paramedic people person, through meeting someone intuitively, reading them energetically, through personal training and through holistic practices that I learnt with Clayton and his sickness. So I just bundled everything up together, and that's what I do now. That's where sort of my business has come from, which is aligned brain changing movement. Yeah.
So tell us about that, BCM, brain changing movement.
Yeah, so brain changing movement is everything. It's hard to explain because when I meet someone, I'm not just going to give you an exercise to do and leave you. I am, like I said, going to work with your energy. I'm going to tell you to do so many things other than just your brain health. So I kind of read into someone, not only physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I do all of that. That's kind of brain changing movement, but it is actually changing the root cause of someone's issues and concerns and problems from the top down. So addressing it from the boss, because that's the brain is the boss, and then down the line. That's brain changing movement. But the background of brain changing movement is literally we can use parts of your body to enhance parts of the brain, and we can use or look at parts of the brain that aren't firing well, that are causing mismatches of communication within the body, and fix those two communications together.
Could you give us an example of that?
Yeah, so if I could sort of give you one area of your brain to look after a little bit more, it would be your cerebellum. Your cerebellum is like your little brain. It sits at the back of your skull, right up near your neck. You know, your spinal cord comes up, and that part of the brain processes all information first. So it's all incoming information goes through that first before it hits other areas of the brain. So if that part of the brain's not firing well, there's going to be areas of the body that aren't functioning well. So the cerebellum deals with accuracy, balance, and coordination. It has a lot to do with the hierarchy of the brain as well. So the brain works off a little bit of a more important than other areas processing. So I always explain it like if you think of your body as a corporation, the boss of the corporation is your brain. The co-founder is your vision. So your eyes are actually one of the most important things that your brain listens to. It is like 90% of information coming in at all times. Then the managing director would be your balance, your vestibular, which sits inside your inner ear, which also means that if your eyes aren't working well and your balance is a little bit off whack, the brain's only option for outputs is to pull the brakes up on you. So if you have a car, you're driving down the road and you want to get a safety check on that car, you want to make sure the steering works and you want to make sure the brakes work. And if neither of those work, you don't want to drive that car. You would rather put it in park. So that's very similar to the brain. If the eyes aren't working well and the balance isn't working well, your brain's going to put the brakes on your entire body. And you're going to stiffen up and you're going to move slowly and more tentatively around the world because that hierarchy's off. The bosses aren't working. The employee is the movement, the joint structures and the movement of the body. They will just do what they can do depending on the commands coming from up the top. So the fitness industry is all about the employee. It's not about the bosses, like the vision and the balance and working through that hierarchy, the neurology, basically. So that's where I found it fascinating. I'm like, I've got to change this around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Joe Dispenza says, what wires together, fires together.
Yeah,
so
100%.
And then being able to retrain and then have your what's he call them, your neurons just firing off and making new connections to then give you new programs. So it's sort of like updating your programs, updating your software programs just through retraining your functional movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, through part of my research on my guests, and that's part of my job is to research our guests and what we're going to talk about and your background. I went onto your site and I joined up and I downloaded I went to your course. I stalked you, yeah. And then I went and did your course and listened to you there. And then I tried one of your Bollywood neck movements. And I was pretty happy that I was out in the back of the Talgum Showground trying to get the Bollywood neck movement going because I'd watched you on the video, and I think I told you in an email I'd been practicing it, and I reckon I was about a 1 out of 10. I might be up to 2 today, but
Yeah. Yeah, so your brain holds certain maps and files of your movement. And if you don't know how a certain part of your body moves, your brain's not going to have a good map and file of it. And if it doesn't have a good map, its predictability goes down. And when a brain's predictability goes down of any situation, not just your physical, surroundings, emotional, physical, mental, anything, if the predictability is down, it feels more threat. And when a brain feels threat, that's when a body doesn't function well at all. So if you think of threat, it's like not even a sympathetic response, but just the brain does not feel safe in that situation or in your body at that moment. So basically what I teach is how to open up the predictability, how to make your brain understand all these different maps of how you function and how you move and how you process information, even your emotional state, because you can't separate those two. Your emotions and your physical work in the same conveyor belt in your brain. Like literally the same parts of your brain that's switched on by physical movement are also the same parts of the brain that are emotionally switched on as well. So it's a big kind of rounding effect, but when you get to the nitty-gritty of it and you understand that root cause of it, it can change things in an instant.
Yeah, I'm still going to keep practicing that, and I'll do it on my own. And one day you might get a little video clip of it, and you can give me a score and let me know how you think I'm going.
There's one map we need to get your brain used to, Bollywood.
Hey, now I also read you describe yourself as someone who intuitively connects with people and reads their energy for a deeper understanding, which we've shared and gone through. Can you share an experience where this intuitive connection had a profound impact on someone's well-being?
I mean, I hear it every day. Like, it's not... I always say to people, it's not what you do, it's who you are. Like, you could be someone... I don't know, I'm pulling things out of my arse here, but you could be someone hairdressing, and... you walk out of that experience just feeling so amazing and so uplifted and so happy and motivated and inspired when all she did was cut your hair or all he did was cut your hair. And it's not what you do, it's who you are. So I always said, it's not what I bring to the table, I am the table. I want people to come and sit at my table and to feel energetically well. So although I'm intuitively reading people, I am also up-regulating their energy and their frequency and their vibration, yes, by me giving them tools and exercises, but it's a deeper understanding as well of... It's hard to explain. It's almost like if I lit a candle and I've got a candle here and then you've got a candle and you bring it to me and yours is not lit, then I light yours up, by the exchange we have, whether that's through me giving you exercises or whatnot, but it's more... that frequency that comes behind it. So I have people a lot of the time leave me and just go, what just happened then? Like, yes, my shoulder feels great, but I also feel completely different. So I can't kind of pinpoint one for you, but I know it just happens quite a lot because I'm giving so much of my energy to uplift yours, to light you up internally as well.
Yeah, I've had that experience happen myself, and it's where you can be in an environment where, I don't know what it is about this space or about this person, but I know I really want to be here.
Yeah.
And you can't explain it, but you just know and you feel that you really want to be there. It's just that energetic pull that happens.
And that's vice versa too. And I teach people that a lot of the time as well. I'm like, when you enter a room, enter a situation, enter your home, enter anything, have that feeling of, is my candle being lit up into a fireball right now? So am I leaving this space inspired and motivated and uplifted, or do I feel like it's being blown out? If it's being blown out, you need to change a lot of your situations and scenarios, because if you've got a blown out candle that you're living with, nothing else is going to fire up in your body when you're not lit up internally.
Yeah, and you can use your own experience with clay.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Great reflection in that regard.
Very blown out then.
Yeah, you were blown out, all right. Your candle was just melted
it was melted.
on the table.
I had to rebuild it back up.
Now, I noticed you love to write, and as an author myself, I'm curious to hear about some of your writings that come to you through channeling. Can you share with us a couple of stories about that?
I'm going to say exactly what you said to me and say the first book I ever wrote was a download. Yeah. So here's all the heads turning to the side going, huh? Because it happened to me the exact same way. So my first book was called WTF, I Can't Even Deal, which is what the F, I can't even deal. And I wrote it for young adults. So I guess it came off the back of being a paramedic as well and seeing a lot of young kids struggling out there emotionally and not having enough time with them in the back of the car to really make a difference, because I had like 20 to 30 minutes with someone in the back of the car and, you had to do all the things you meant to do, blood pressures and whatnot, not talk to them. So the night before I had a dream about it, how it looked, what the words were, what the chapters were, what the title was, and then I woke up the next morning and I just had those feelings of like, I'm going to sit down and just write this and see what comes out. And I just wrote it from start to finish within, I think it was like 4 days I wrote it. And then, like you said, in 2 weeks I had a book on my desk and I was just like, what happened there? And even reading it back, I'm like, I don't think I wrote this. It's basically like an emotional manual for young adults. Like when they're feeling certain things they feel, they can use these tools in the book. Instead of them feeling, there must be something wrong with me, they can go to this book and go, maybe that's what's wrong, or maybe that's what's wrong, or maybe I'm feeling that because of that. Yeah. So that was my first one. And a lot of the other ones have come exactly the same way. I get a lot of things in my dreams, like a lot of visual like guidance and what I'm supposed to do and what programs I should bring out, all in my dreams. So I'll wake up one morning and my husband's like, uh-oh. And I'm like, no, don't talk to me. I've got to sit down, just wait.
I've got something need to get it out of me
birthing something. Yeah.
Time to birth. Yeah, my crew does the same here. They go, oh, no, what's he got today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't we stick to this? No. I've got this.
You got to go with the feel of what you need in that moment.
Yeah, what's the feel in the moment?
Yeah.
Do you ever judge yourself and question your own ability to achieve your desired outcome?
All the time.
And how do you overcome the inner critic?
That's human nature.
It is human nature, yeah.
That's disconnection.
Yeah.
I know I judge myself and harshly criticize myself and feel like I can't do what I want to do and I'm not worthy enough and all of the things that come out like every human being feels when I'm disconnected. When I've spent my energy, when I've given too much and I haven't filled my own tank up. That's when those feelings and emotions come up. When I have brain drain, basically. My brain is filled, like my gutters of my house are just filled with crap and I need to wash them out. So 100% I do feel that all the time, but just understanding and I guess having an awareness that that is just a disconnection from myself and being able to go, okay, here are my tools when I feel crappy like this and understand what I can do in that moment to flush my system out, flush my brain out, flush my life out and come back to a clean slate and then start again.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of people don't know what to do. Like when they do feel that, they don't have the tools. So.
And that's when depression can come in because we push things down.
Yeah.
And it can be quite often, especially in men, where we'll just keep pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down.
Yeah.
And eventually it's got to pop out the sides of the barrel somewhere.
Yeah.
So at least for me, I'm the same way. I've been through depression and all types of mental breakdown and etc. But now I know I've created my own toolkit to help me out, and that's, get myself out of town, go back to nature, get on my bike, go for a ride, go for a swim, have a cold shower, have a cold tub, do whatever. There's just a range of little things that can make a big difference.
And it's sad because some people don't even know they
what
exist.
Those things are.
What those things
or
are.
How to even find them or tap into them.
Yeah. They've even lost that connection of, I could go for a ride or I could. And it's just not even in their mindset to understand that. So I guess educating that as well is really powerful for people that have just completely disconnected from even all of that.
Yeah, and it's
simple things.
It's like me saying to myself, what am I noticing about myself right now?
Yeah.
Whereas opposed, what am I judging about myself? So I replace my judgment with noticing. So
Yep.
what am I noticing about myself right now?
Yeah.
Right in this moment.
Yeah.
And then I say, just remember, you are not your thoughts.
Yeah.
So what am I noticing about myself? Oh, no, I'm really feeling frustrated. I'm really feeling flat. I'm really feeling down.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you need to do right now to make yourself feel better than you're feeling?
Yeah.
Because I have an underlying principle in the 4 principles of the art of noticing, and the 4th one is always look for ways to feel good.
Yeah.
So if I'm not feeling that good, I can ask myself, what can I do to feel better than I'm feeling?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I don't need to feel grandiose, but just what can I do to make myself feel better than I'm feeling right now?
Yeah.
And then that's just an incremental chunk that can then get you back.
But that's a step ahead of the rest, because some people don't even know how to self-dialogue, don't even know how to have that talk with themselves, that conversation of what do I do? They don't even realise that you can talk to yourself in those moments, and your cells actually listen to your own self-talk. Like, it's amazing what actually that self-inner dialogue can do to change your perspective on life and, depression and things like that.
Yeah.
I think Jim Carrey, I loved what he said about depression.
Yeah.
He said it was depression is deep rest from the character I no longer want to be. I'm just like, yeah, that's it right there. It's like you've got to change everything. And there's another amazing teacher that I learnt off, Dr. Perry, and he said, you can't get well in the same environment you got sick in.
Yes.
So you physically can't just put the work into going for a run every day if you're in the same environment you got sick in. So you have to look at literally, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, like all of these other chapters around you if you want to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I had to go off quite often and look at myself holistically to go, well, it's more than just that. There's this, and this part of me as well. And sometimes riding my bike wasn't the answer because I was drained.
Yeah.
So doing that is
or
just going to put me in a worse state than I was already in. So it's like it's rest. And this is where some of the tools of today, like your aura rings and your Whoop bands and stuff, can help you read your state of play to go, rest a bit more.
Yeah.
You don't need to recover anymore or do any more physical stuff today. Just rest.
Yeah.
And it's another way of tuning in and listening.
Yeah. So deep connection. I think that's, if you want to learn one thing about health, it's your own deep connection with yourself.
Own deep connection, yeah.
Yeah.
My partner, Melissa, she talks to herself. She asked her own
100%.
Higher self.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you do in this situation? And she does it all the time.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about something and she says, well, I asked my higher self and it said, and she said this. And she even has a name. Yeah. So she's been saying to me, well, if you ask your higher self, or just think of a name that you'd like to call him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know like any other guys' names that I want to be calling my higher self.
Yeah. I remember doing that when I was 10.
When you were 10?
I was 10. I found a name for that person who I just thought was the words in my head. And I remember going, well, what can I call this person? And I said, okay, well, I'll go to sleep tonight, and when I wake up, the first thing I look at, I'm going to call them that. It was just so that I had a poster, because I was a freak. I had a poster on my wall of like the human body, of like muscle system and stuff when I was 10, right? And I woke up and I looked straight at the calf muscle and I saw soleus, and that's my higher self.
Soleus.
Soleus. It's been ever since I was 10.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's funny that you say that about you had the, what was that?
I had a human
body.
I had a human body on my wall.
Right. Yep. Was it like muscular and muscles. Skeletal and just mainly muscular?
Yeah.
We have at home, it's like about a 1 metre high, skeletal, what would you call it, dummy.
Yeah.
And it's got the nervous system running through it to certain points and all these things. And initially when Ari first saw it, it was like, scared the living daylights out of him. And then people would come into our house and say, why have you got that there for? That's not very... But we go, hang on.
Yeah.
Ari needs to learn about this stuff.
Yes.
So we're not going to lock
Oh.
our skeleton in the closet, because I've had skeletons in the closet, and when they come out, they scare you even more.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So
yeah.
we're going to help him and educate him and let him know about the body and let him know how it functions, and it's okay to see this skeleton. And
I love it.
So it's that type of thing. It's removing the fear of being judged by others and just being with what you're comfortable with for yourself and your partner and your child and however you want to raise them.
It's mind-blowing that we live in this home called our body, yet if I asked you where your can opener was in your own home, you could tell me it's the third drawer down, second, left from the sink. And if I said, well, what area in your body is your liver, what does it do? And you could look at me with this blank look and go, I'm not sure. And I'm like, well, you live in that, so you need to understand that more.
Yeah.
And if that was taught from a very early age, how your body, anatomy and physiology functions through your physical but mental as well, we would be an entirely different race and human being.
Absolutely, incredibly much so. And even to be able to teach the youth of today about, just, as you say, feeling into your body, but then helping them with breath work and helping them with meditation and helping them with understanding about financials from a different level and how to, look, we were always taught, work hard, get a job, work hard, buy a house, get a mortgage, work till you're 65 and then go and enjoy your life for 9 months
Crippled.
before you die.
With sore backs and bits and bobs.
So we want to say, no, let's do it in reverse,
100%.
And help our kids that way.
Yeah.
Now, you're also a wife and a mother, and often family are the least engaged in what we do as entrepreneurs. So how well does your family understand your work?
My son's like, Mum, that guy's got a vestibular problem. I'm like, and how do you know that, Clay? And he goes, because when he walks, his head bubbles. I'm like, correct. So he's very on to the money because I teach him as I go because I want him to understand. So I'm like, Clay, look at this lady when she walks. See how her feet come in. So that's not just, tight hips. That's her cerebellum. And the cerebellum deals with this, this, and this. And he's like, oh. And although he's like, to me, he's not taking it in. Like, he's just like, yeah, Mum, whatever. Yep. Then the next day he's like, Mum, that lady's got a cerebellum problem. I'm like, yes. My husband, on the other hand, he loves work I do. He actually he's good. I see him in the backyard doing some of my exercises and vision work and stuff, and I call out the window, feet together.
Feet together.
Move your head to the left. He's like, shut up.
Leave me alone.
So they understand what I do. But it's important to have, everyone involved and on board of what you do as well. And
yeah, that's really cool. That's Ari with me. Like when he gets he's 2.5, so he's got a lot of emotions. People call it the terrible twos. I think it should be renamed the terrific twos.
It's just processing
because there's so much going on for him that it's such a terrific time to just watch and observe and help and guide and learn from him as well. Yeah. And when he gets a little bit emotional and upset, and I'll just say to him, okay, mate, just breathe. Yeah. And he'll go, blow out the candles, and he blows out the candle.
So good.
And it's just little bits like that, and he has an awareness of it straight away, and then he blows out the candle, and then that's change state then and there, straight away, boom.
These are life skills so much more important than algebra.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to learn by the time he's 5, 6 how to manage that state of that and that emotion right then and there, just through a little bit of changing state through his breathing and his self-awarenesses. So
we've got lucky kids because they got lucky parents.
Well, they got. I think it comes down to just parents that are just open to
share and
to
teach.
Share and teach and guide and try things differently. Conscious parenting is a word that is bandied around, but you've got to really look inside to say, well, what makes a truly conscious parent? You can use the word and think you are, but what makes a truly conscious parent? And so we always try and reflect on that. Are we
Yep.
truly being a conscious parent right now? Yes, no, and then you can pull yourself back into it. And we have Ari, he'll get up some mornings and he'll just look at me and he goes, TV? He's just like that. He looks up at me and goes, TV? And I'll say, no, mate, no TV. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daddy's just going to do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll come out and I'll read you a couple of books. And we might do a little bit of something. So by the time I've got a coffee and come out, he's got a couple of books on the lounge.
Doing
he's
something
ready to
else.
go.
Yeah. And I think it's so important too to allow, like the triggers. Like kids trigger you a lot, but allow those triggers to teach you something. So instead of like putting a wall up and being defensive, like the other night, my son sat down and ripped into me about, just like, Mum, you know, always on that computer, always on your phone, and I'm not. But in that moment, he pulled something up in me that triggered me like you wouldn't believe. Like, oh my God, maybe I'm not spending enough time with him. Maybe I'm not showing him enough attention. And instead of me reacting straight away, I actually stopped and went, listened to him, listened to his whole kind of debate, which went on for like 25 minutes. But anyway, then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go. I had to go fill up the water. So I went and filled up the water. And when I allowed those feelings to come out and went, why am I triggered? Why am I triggered? What's happening? What do I feel in this moment? I started bawling my eyes out like, oh, my son can see things in me that I can't see in myself. And I remember going home and having a conversation with him, and I cried in front of him because I want him to see that too. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I'm like, no, I thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for pulling this out of me because I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So if you actually don't like, bury the situation, like let it happen, you can learn so much from kids.
Oh, you can as well. And I'm learning every day. Every single day, Ari will teach me something for sure. And if I can teach him a couple of things along the way, well, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
What does your ideal vision of a world where everyone thrives in health and wellness look like? And how do you see yourself contributing to that vision?
I hope I contribute to that every day. I mean, I literally sit at home.
We can have a reframe on that, and you could say, I feel in myself I contribute to that every day.
Yeah, instead of I hope.
Hope is that we can hope for lots of things.
Yeah, true.
But when we know in ourselves, and we don't acknowledge that, so we can say,
true.
I feel in myself that I contribute to making the world a better place by doing X, Y, Z. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Just little reframes, the different energy that they can carry and what they can change in you in an instant. Yeah. So sorry for that.
No, it's good.
Take the floor.
Yeah. So I teach people that every day, because every day I ask something bigger than myself. Please guide me in the right places, the right spaces to meet the right people, the right moment and the right opportunities.
Wow.
To ignite a light in that other person. Yeah. So I know I'm guided into whoever I meet and whoever that person is and whoever that moment is to elevate them. That is what I've asked to do every single day, for the last however many years. So in my ideal world, I just want to see people more connected to their homes and their bones. Like, we have become so disconnected from our home, which is this human body. And that is my calling on this earth. Like, everyone's got something different, but I've been called to literally, I guess, bring forth people capable of existing in a new way, in their new bodies, via taking ownership of their health from the inside out first and not from the outside in. So when something's wrong, you ask yourself what's wrong. Instead of going, I feel sick, I need to go to the doctor, you go, I feel sick. What's happening in my life, in my situation, in my body? Where do I feel it? What am I feeling? Just coming back to that inside connection first. And I think if we work on ourselves and our interconnection first, then it's that candle thing. When you have lit yourself up by the tools and the work you've done, you are able to spread that light to someone else and light that person up. It's almost, you put a pebble in, a pond and the ripples go out.
Yes.
So if your pebble is weak, you're going to get a little ripple.
Yeah.
If a pebble is dense and just filled with such goodness, it's just going to go and ripple out. And your little, what you do behind closed doors, if you don't think that doesn't make, a difference, it makes a massive difference because you're putting the work into yourself, which, as you said earlier, that ripple of energy could be seen over the world.
Yeah.
For someone else following you or watching you, or one word you say to them, or yeah. So if we can do that as humanity, as going into kind of the future, we're just going to have such an amazing human connectedness too, through healing and health and consciousness.
Yeah, and it's that consciousness of an awareness within, and I work on the be do have principles of who am I being as a human being will determine what I do as a human being, which will determine what I have as a human being.
Yep.
So if I'm being a world famous dickhead, well, I'm going to get exactly what I deserve.
Yeah.
But if I'm being someone that's trying to make a world famous difference in the life of every human that I come into connection with, I'm going to get something that's going to uplift them, or it's going to make a difference for them in whatever way possible.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's where am I coming from that will determine what
that's it
comes through me and comes back to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the yin and the yang and the give and receive.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Very good. Just got a camera issue here.
battery.
The card.
Do you know when it cut out?
Only a couple of minutes.
Probably got the best part of our combo.
Just have to have this one.
Yeah, it'll get yours, so that's good.
Like the audio's fine.
Yeah, just chop me.
Flash to pictures of something right to it.
Yeah, we'll have something come up in between. Something will find a space. Now, that's been really good. I think we've really just covered off some really nice things. And that's what it's all about, just open, raw conversation, full of truth and authenticity, and be vulnerable if we need to be. And that's a great thing about vulnerability, is just being able to open up and go, this is me.
They've measured the highest frequency, and it's not love, it's authenticity.
Authenticity, yeah.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah, we're doing a workshop on that later this month, and I'm going to be talking through those three pillars that we're evolving, which is truth, authenticity and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And how they sit in a Venn diagram, and how we sit as human beings, and how we need these to be a continuum of interacting with each other for evolution of self and a deeper connection with self because once you've got that, the ripple effect of that will be that you will have an improved business, because you're going to improve your communications with people. You're going to be more truthful with them. You're going to be yourself. You're not going to hide behind your mask anymore. You're going to share when you're not feeling something. I don't know how to do this, or I'm not sure I'm the right person for this job, or I need help in this area.
Yeah.
That's growing you, which will grow the people around you as well.
When I feel like I've only got 3 people in my class, or rather than 50 people in my class, every single time there's words that come into my head. Your ripple of energy is only meant for those who can handle its flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful. Like it.
I was like, okay, true. It just makes me go, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ellice, we're just about coming to the end of our podcast. Thank you. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Great conversation. Really enjoyed it. Now, even if one person listens to our little podcast, we just might make a difference for that one person.
Absolutely, 100%.
And then if they can ripple effect that out to a couple of more people, well, you just never know what's possible.
100%.
So how can our listeners contact you and access your tools, your BCM tools, and benefit from your expertise in health, movement, brain function, and the energy that you generate? Yeah,
so online, it's called eLined, so it's like aligned but with an E. So elined.com.au. I've got lots of programs and things like that, brain-changing movement programs online. a newsletter that comes out every Friday. I do a Friday fix. I'm big on free information. You know, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
I can't help with just having a program stuck online and someone not being able to afford it to.
Yes.
So I do share quite a lot of information on my social medias, on YouTube, on my newsletters and things like that. So if you want to get in contact with me, that's probably the best bet, is to go either via social media or my website.
Awesome stuff. Now, Ellice, I always close out our podcast with this question for our guests. Ellice Di Giovanni, who are you breathing for today and why?
Myself. It always comes down to yourself, and that's not selfishness. You have to ignite your own light first so you can help other people, ignite other people. You know, whenever someone asks me a question that's like that, you know, who's your hero? It's me. It's got to be you first.
Yeah.
Because if you're not firing and functioning well, nothing outside of you is going to. So it always has to be you first.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I believe.
Yeah. And I think we've both learnt that lesson in life through our experiences of how we've grown and what we've done on our individual life's journeys when we haven't done that.
Yeah.
And we can have a lot of gratitude for the fact that we've been able to recover really well, and recover in a way that we can inspire and guide others to higher levels of themselves and raise their frequency and their energy. And I look at Dr. David R. Hawkins' map of consciousness, and you know, I'll quite often think, well, where am I at today? You know? and we know that goes from 0 to 1,000. And, you know, sometimes I'm looking at it going, I think you're a bit higher than that. No, go on, give yourself, go up a level.
You're at where you're meant to be at in that moment. And that's okay, wherever you're
it's
at.
being able to just have a laugh about it as well.
Yeah.
And go, well, mate, you're doing the best you can do, and good on you.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Thank you for coming in. It's been absolutely enjoyable. I'm going to keep practicing my Bollywood neck movements.
Yeah, as I do it. All right. Yeah, it's easy.
You do it way better than me, I can tell you.
Oh, well, no, we got some work there.
We've got some work. So,
Yeah.
Ellice, thank you. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in to 100 Breaths with Gavin McGay. And we'll see you next time around. Bye for now.